Alright, so now we are going to be talking about the quadratic formula. This is one of those that somehow the algebra students always hear about before they get to it, and then they're scared to death about it because they've been hearing about how hard it is all year long, but it's really not that bad. All we're doing is a simple substitution like we've been doing since day one in our classes. All you're doing is substituting numbers in to this formula and then working it out using a calculator. It's not very hard at all. Um, the hardest part about it is actually memorizing it, and we'll get to how to memorize this at a later time. Right now I'm going to show you what this is right here. So we have the quadratic formula, which is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. All of that is over 2a. And that's a lot of stuff. I'll admit it. That's a whole lot of things you got to remember. But if you look here closely, you already know part of this because from our previous video, you can see the discriminant right here. Remember, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. So you should already know that part of it. So if you take that out, you don't have to memorize that much. So what we're going to do is a four-step process. And you can use this process in the quadratic formula to solve any quadratic equation. Okay, so what we have to do here is we have to, first step is identify what our A, B, and C are. So here's my A. Here is my B. Whoops, I've got the wrong color here. Sorry. So my A's are red. I'm trying to keep everything color coordinated. My B's are green. So here's my B. Don't forget the sign in front of it. And then my C I'm going to put as a blue line here. So A is positive 2, B is negative 5, C is negative 12. And so it's color coordinated to help you see this a little easier. What we have to do is simply, again, plug these things into the formula. So the first thing the formula calls for is a negative B. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a negative 5. Now this is very key right here, and I'm actually going to change the color of that first negative sign. This first negative that you see right here is part of the formula. It's going to be in there every single time. So do not ever leave that off. The negative that's with this negative 5 has to come with this as well. That's why you see two negatives. If this was a positive 5, it would just be a positive 5 here. But since that's negative, that has to come with it, okay? Now, so we have our b in there, plus or minus the square root of b squared. Now again, putting in parentheses my b, because if you leave the parentheses off, it's going to give you the wrong answer. So make sure to put those parentheses in there. So we have we have b squared minus 4 times a times c. So my a we said was 2, so parentheses 2. And then what's my c? My c is negative 12. So negative 12. And all of that is over 2 times a, which again is a 2 here. Okay, so just to recap, all we've done so far, we put negative b, and we put that in parentheses, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, and all of that is divided by 2 times a, which in this case is 2. So now we've got all of my numbers in here, so let's start simplifying this thing a little bit. So that was step 2, plugging in everything, all of our a, b's, and c's. Step 3, we're going to simplify. So we want to simplify this as much as possible. What I'm going to do is write it up here. So negative times negative 5 is going to give me positive 5. And I actually need to, I'm going to just put everything in black now. That way, because we've already substituted everything in, so I don't think the color coordination is going to do much from here. So we have positive 5 plus or minus the square root So let's start working on the inside. This is the discriminant, remember that. So negative 5 squared is going to give me 25 minus 4 times 2 is 8, and then 8 times, or let's do it like this, negative 4 times 2 is negative 8, negative 8 times negative 12 is 96, a positive 96. So what we need to do is make that a positive now. So, and then all of that is over 2 times 2, which is 4. So that's an easy one. So let's simplify this a little bit more. We're not quite done here with simplifying. So let's just keep on going here. So we've got 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 plus 96, which is 121, over 4. Okay, now are we done simplifying? No, we're not, because we still have this radical sign here, the square root symbol. And so what we want to do is we want to get rid of that radical sign. To do that, we have to take the square root of 121. So last time with simplifying, we got 5 plus or minus 11 divided by 4. So the square root of 121 was 11, and then you can remove the radical sign at that point. So now we've got this. Now, if you've probably been looking at this right here in the middle where it says plus or minus and saying, what in the world is going on there? What this means is that when you take the square root of a number, for instance, 121 right here, the square root of 121, it could be a positive 11 or it could be a negative 11, because they both will give you 121. Because if you did 11 times 11, 11 times 11, that gives me 121. But if I also did negative 11 times negative 11, that also gives me 121, because the negative times a negative is a positive. So that's why we have to do plus or minus, because it could be a positive 11 or it could be a negative 11. Now, that being said, there are two things you've got to do here. You have to set up two different equations at this point. The first one we're going to set up is like this right here. 5 plus 11 divided by 4, and then we're going to get an answer with that. The next one is going to be 5 minus 11 divided by 4. Again, because we have plus and minus, so we have to have one problem that is plus and one problem that is minus. So 5 plus 11 is 16. 16 divided by 4 gives me 4. That is one of my answers. 5 minus 11, what does that give me? It's going to give me a negative 6. Negative 6 divided by 4 is going to give me negative 1.5, or if you made that into a fraction, it's going to give me negative 3 divided by 2. So either one of these answers, or actually both of these answers, are technically correct. And so that is what we'll look for when you're solving the quadratic formula. You're going to simply take this right here and plug in all your numbers. So step 1, identify A, B, and C. Step 2, substitute in A, B, and C everywhere you see those letters. And I color coordinated it for you here on this video. Step 3 is to simplify. And you can see we had 3 steps where we had to simplify things. All these, I'm circling them right here. We had to simplify from here, then to here, and then to here. We simplified as far as you can possibly get it, okay? Once you get to this step, you have to write out 2 different problems because you have a plus and a minus. So step 4 is to write 2 equations and solve. 5 plus 11 divided by 4, and then 5 minus 11 divided by 4. And that is how you do the quadratic formula.